Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to look at how the US E-minis unfolded yesterday, which was Monday the 13th of April. In particular I want to focus on the YM and have a look at this quite big fall we had during the day yesterday. I must admit, while we were doing our training webinar early on yesterday in the day, because the markets basically opened where they closed the previous day and there was no major economic data coming out yesterday, I must admit I didn't expect to have such a large fall like this. But the YM had a particularly good trade setup, which is our holy grail trade setup on a short-term chart. So I'd like to go through this and just remind you all of what this holy grail trade setup is. So first and foremost, we go to a higher time frame chart. So if you're trading 3 or 5 minute or maybe even a 2 minute chart, which I'll look on in a bit later in the video, we go to the higher time frame chart. So for this we go to a 15-minute chart. Why do we do this? Well, this sets the larger degree trend. Now if I zoom out, in fact I have to zoom out quite a long way, we go back to the last major pivot, which was right the way back here. In fact, it might be easier to see on a slightly longer time frame the hourly chart. So let's go out to an hourly chart, and I think you can see it a lot better here, because if I now come back to this, you can see that we had a pivot here. If I right mouse click, put the DP on, the market's gone beyond that, so that one's not applicable. You go back to the next or the previous swing high, which was here. You can see it quite clearly on the chart here. Let's right mouse click the DP on there. If I slide that across, you can see that basically yesterday the market came up into that decision point level. In fact, actually, if I put the Elliott waves on at this particular point in time as well, by right mouse click, Elliott wave intermediate, you can see we're actually at a 5-wave sequence. A bit of a sloppy sequence actually, because it would be nice to have a nice strong wave 3, but nevertheless it was a 5-wave sequence coming up to that high yesterday as well. So the point being is, in this higher time frame decision point resistance area, we're anticipating higher time frame resistance. In other words, the market to come up against a level where a high was anticipated. I'll just drag this across a bit so it's out of our way, and as you can see, that's exactly what it did. Basically on the latter part of Friday and coming up into yesterday, you can see there's our higher time frame resistance. So what's a holy grail trade setup? Well, a holy grail trade setup is where we have a major high, and you see this is what unfolded here. If I put the cursor on, it came in at 10.27. In other words, we have a major high, we then have an initial decline. You can see the market decline down here into 11 o'clock. Then we have a correction that unfolds as an ABC. If I zoom in a bit here, whoops, that's what I wanted to do. If I zoom in here, you can see the market came down, it then went back up into here. If I right mouse click on this pivot, do Elliott wave intermediate, you can see that this correction here unfolded as an ABC. What's special about these? Well, in Elliott wave terms, the initial move is a wave 1, the initial correction is a wave 2. Now a wave 2 normally subdivides into a lesser ABC pattern, which is exactly what we have here. In fact, actually now if I just clear this, if I'll put them on at the same time, is that I can now go to our WPT tool and look at the wave 2 or B, which I'll click on that high, click on the end of wave 1, and you can see that is the broad area where wave 2 is likely to end. So we have two things coinciding. We have the broad area where wave 2 is likely to end and an ABC pattern here as well. Now if this is the initial correction after the initial decline off an important high, then this would be classified as a wave 2. Why is that so important? Because then you're likely to get a strong or wave 3 kind of move, and that's exactly what happened. But in Elliott wave terms, it's quite hard, or normal Elliott wave analysis is quite hard, because you try to fit in all these patterns with higher time frame patterns, and that's quite difficult to do sometimes. At MTPredictor we make it a lot easier in that we look for the start of the sequence, which would have been here, to unfold at higher time frame or higher degree support and resistance. That's why we put our DPs on our higher time frame chart. So when that high came in there at our higher time frame resistance, then we got the initial decline, then we got the initial correction that unfolded as an ABC. We now have a potential trade set up here. Now it would have been very nice if this had all unfolded as just take this off. as a automatic trade setup. Now the reason it didn't is because the risk reward of this was too low. However, if we go to a slightly shorter time frame chart, a 2-minute chart, you can see that there's our TS3 sell. So it's a standard and automatic trade setup. There's our initial pattern again, initial decline, ABC, up into our TS3 sell. If we now right mouse click off this red sell bar, place the analysis on, you can see that we get our position sizing coming in. However, what's special about this is because we anticipate this to be a wave 2, we're not aiming for the first target, we're aiming for a typical wave 3. In other words, if I scroll down here, we're anticipating that the market is going to move into our wave 3 WPT, which is down here. So I grab and drag our risk reward down to that level, and that would be the potential profit at that particular point in time. You can see that here a potential profit of almost 7 times the initial risk was available. The market actually reached this level quite nicely. If we look at our STF, the market had gone strong. In other words, the STF was beyond its strength band on the way down. Therefore, you would swap to the ATR stop, which is our red and blue dots, red dots in this case, and you'd actually been stopped out here for an approximate 8.9R profit. So this is why I like the Holy Grail trade setup, because you are catching the strongest and longest move in a completed Elliott wave sequence, or completed 5-wave sequence, which is the wave 3. You're getting in right at the end of the wave 2 or the start of the wave 3, so that allows you to come in with the smallest initial risk and capture a move that's big, but not just big in profit terms, but actually big in relation to the initial risk. That's what's important about trading, is having profits that are big in relation to your initial risk, and that's exactly what the Holy Grail trade setup is designed to find. So I thought that was a good example yesterday, but it was all set up because we had our higher time frame resistance, which is our blue DP here, on our chart, so that was telling us that high was likely to unfold in this area. We then spotted the initial decline, the initial ABC correction unfolding like that. Our shorter time frame automatic setup came in on our 2-minute chart. If you'd had your scanner running, you would have seen that as well. We're then looking to play to the typical wave 3 WPT, and actually, because the market was strong beyond our strength band here on our STF indicator, the market went down a bit further and the profit was almost 9 times greater than the initial risk. So a good example of an MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup unfolding yesterday on the YM.